Morning, everyone. Welcome to the story behind the story. And I'm Ken Woodell of the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, and with me I have our editor, Kate Jackman Atkinson, and our news and sports reporter, Owen Devereaux. And we've got a wide range of news. It seems there's always something happening of interest in and around the area. So we're going to dive right in this morning. And I always say at the start, and usually try to remember to say at the end of our show too, that if you have feedback, please give us a call at 476-3401. Or you can email us at news@neepawabanner.com. So, Owen and Kate, we've had a couple of big fairs in the area, not right in Neepawa, but Minnedosa and Carberry. Give us a report on that. I understand there were some big crowds and some neat events at all those.
Well, it's summer, so it must be fair time.
Oh, yeah.
And there was, I guess, 2 events this past weekend. We had Carberry and Minnedosa.
Some fantastic festivities that were going on there as well.
Yeah, really great. We had some reporters at both of them, some coverage, and kind of 2 different events. There was a lot of action at Carberry. You want to talk a little bit about what people, could have seen if they'd been there and what they can now enjoy in the paper?
Well, if you weren't there in person, shame on you. But you have an opportunity. You got a second chance right now because some of the events that were going on, they were just so amazing. I wasn't there, so shame on me. But going through the pictures, it was just fantastic. One thing I was really intrigued by was that the Carberry does a rodeo.
Yeah.
And they were doing the sleds, they were doing the chuck wagons, they were doing presentations. Obviously, you have an equestrian history, so I would imagine something like that fascinated you.
Yeah, it was great to see. They had quite a few, if you've got a kind of a need for speed, there was definitely a lot going on there.
If I remember correctly, John Drinkwater was there taking pictures.
Yeah. He might have he was videoing as well, I believe.
I think we're going to have some on Access TV video of the harness races.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I thought he was there with his video camera.
No, pony chuck wagons?
It might have been,
Chariot races.
Chariot races.
I'll get it right yet.
Keep trying, Ken. Keep trying.
Chariot races.
He just had some amazing pictures this week. We have some great pictures in this week's paper, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are other ones that I hope we have space maybe to do a little bit more on those next week. We'll try and put them on the website, mywestman.ca, and just the intensity of the entire exhibition. It was just, it really was intriguing to look at. Cool.
Yeah, and I guess a little more laid back. Minnedosa had their fun fest, and I'm sure it was no less fun. But it, there wasn't, chuck wagons and chariot races, but they had some pretty neat, fun stuff for the whole family. Some sporting events, great parade.
They've done a good job of that over the years, and continue to do so. Owen, you were covering the senior men's golf tournament, an annual event at the Neepawa Golf Club, and a local winner this year, which sometimes doesn't happen. So tell us about that.
That's right, Ken. This year we had a local participant who was able to win it all. For those that are unfamiliar, the Senior Open, it's an annual event that's put on by the Neepawa Golf and Country Club for members, not just members, but people from all over the province come out to this. Last year, a gentleman from Winnipeg ended up winning the whole thing. This year, though, Neepawa, Dave Soroka, pardon me, Dave, if I mispronounced the last name.
Oh, you got it right.
He ended up being the big winner. He's a club member for the Neepawa Golf and Country Club. I was about to say the initials, but then I forgot them. But he just really, sometimes you have one of those days where you can do no wrong. When I was talking to Dave, he said, this was that day. I was just zoned in. I couldn't miss a fairway if I tried. And putting on the greens, those putts that usually it's a 2-putt, maybe a 3-putt, he was able to sink them. He said, if he did it 100 times, he wouldn't be able to, make it happen all over again. But he, at the right time, he nailed it. And it's great to see somebody local pick it up like that.
Gotta love it when you have one of those days when it really counts. It's not just, you're out with your friends. You gotta love it when you can really pull through, for a big local tournament like this. I'm sure you must be really pleased.
Yeah, and again, there's no real monetary value to it. They win prizes, of course. Landon Cameron, who operates the golf club, does a phenomenal job. The staff down there. I was hearing this course was amazing this year. You couldn't have asked for better greens, better fairways, anything like that. A lot of people commended Landon and the entire staff for what they did. And Dave's got a little bit of bragging rights for the next year.
Yeah. Well, Chris and I have been out, and Chris has been out a lot more than I have golfing, and the course is in phenomenal shape. It's just it's like stepping into a whole new world when you step out onto the golf course. It's so peaceful. I can see why people like to be there a lot, and some people are there a lot. So.
What's interesting, I'll just quickly chime in, is a lot of people don't realize how good we have it with that course. People from Winnipeg, Brandon, they come in and they say, you guys, for a community this size, to have a course of this magnitude, you really should be pleased with what you have. So it's very commendable to hear that type of praise.
So a newspaper isn't a newspaper without columns, Kate. So
No, that's true.
tell us about yours this week.
Well, I guess I don't really have an awful lot to say about mine this week. I talked a little bit about some changes, I guess, perhaps some changes to the retail landscape in rural Canada. Sears catalog sales, something people have been very familiar with over the years, long and storied history in Canada. But the Canadian company filed for bankruptcy in last month, June 22nd, and they've asked the courts for some time to let the changes that they implemented earlier this year come into effect, and they've asked for protection from their creditors for that time. They were given 30 days. We'll see that might get extended. And I think, the one thing that this brings up is it's another reminder about kind of how poorly protected workers and their pensions can be in these cases. And I think that the company had a bit of an underfunded plan, and as part of what they've asked the courts for is they've asked to stop making these top-up payments that they need to help properly fund the pension plan, as well as money that they were giving to top up the health and dental and life insurance that they were paying for their retirees. And so, they might not, if the company can restructure and if they can find a buyer, there may be no changes, but there may be, some Sears employees that are joining the ranks of Nortel and seeing their pensions go down.
It's very unfortunate when they've been, geared up for that all these years and expecting it all these years and entitled to it in their own minds, and then to get kind of blindsided by economics here. Right?
Yeah, and they were entitled. It's basically that the company just didn't fully pay their share of it. The employees paid their share, and they'll get that regardless of what happens. But it's kind of a sad story.
You won't be nearly old enough to know this, but when the Canada Pension Plan came in, I was just a child when it came in. I remember my mother and
I
father.
vaguely remember it.
Yeah, I know you don't. And I'm talking here maybe 1960 or something in there when it came in. And the discussion at that time, and it didn't happen, but was that the Canada Pension Plan would replace company pensions. Like it would be across the board.
Yeah.
Canada Pension Plan would be the pension plan. Now, had that happened, all the contributions that went into company plans would have gone into CPP and would have been thereby maybe better protected.
Yeah.
Whereas there's no protection under this system.
No.
I fully thought growing up as a young person that CPP would replace all the pension plans and the pensions would be more or less an across-the-board thing in Canada. That obviously hasn't happened.
No.
And obviously, I chuckled there when you said that, because I could never imagine something like that, because I've seen and heard horror stories about the Canada Pension Plan. And again, it's a nice little safety net, but it's not sort of, for the most part, what it sounds like it was supposed to be.
Well, and of course it didn't get the contributions that I thought that it would have had initially, and for all those years. And one of the problems that you find out when you're a small business person is that when you go to retire and you realize, oh well, you keep your taxes as low as possible. You buy some equipment or do whatever, and try and work that system legally and as best you can. But it ends up with a low taxable income, therefore a very low pension plan contribution, and so you're left. And my wife and I are in that same position. Our pension plan isn't very high because we didn't contribute enough during those years to CPP, which used to say shame on us. But when you're short of money, you do what you have to do to keep the business going.
So unlike the majority shareholder of Sears, you're not on the Forbes 100 richest Americans list?
No, I think I'm 101. I think, yeah. I think
Just off.
I just didn't quite make it
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So, you didn't agree with my column this week, did you?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I don't, you're putting me on the spot here, Ken.
Well, hey, that's
You,
it.
right?
That's
It's
what
wrong. You're wrong.
Okay,
No,
all
no.
right. I'll defend it.
I would say that my reading of, did you want to talk about what your column was about this week, or we just want to jump in with what I had
No,
some
let's-
concerns about?
We don't need to worry. Just assume it's wrong and we're good.
Yeah, there you go. I wrote about the topic that's on everybody's mind this week. I think it's about everybody in Canada, and that is the $10.5 million settlement to Omar Khadr. And my take on it is that the Omar Khadr should not have had compensation. He should have had, he's entitled to citizenship, of course. He's entitled to be able to do his thing in Canada now that he's served his time in prison. But I'm certainly opposed to the idea of paying him $10.5 million. And it's interesting, that's in contrast with, I was contacted this week by a 93-year-old Second World War veteran who has been, who says his hearing was damaged initially in the war because of artillery shelling, and the government will not buy him hearing aids, and the man is 93 years old. I think it's absolute shame that we are neglecting our veterans. If a man is 93 and served several years in the armed forces in the Second World War, or the Korean War, or in Afghanistan, and he says he's got a hearing problem, and his doctor says he's got a hearing problem, and the government's refusing to buy him hearing aids, I think that just absolutely stench to that versus $10.5 million to Omar Khadr. Your turn. Tell me where I'm wrong.
So, off the start, I certainly agree that there are numerous examples of Canadian veterans who have not been treated nearly as fairly as they should be for their service. But my understanding, what I read about the Khadr case, was that the issue hinged on the fact that Canadian officials, and I can't remember whether it was CSIS or the military, took part in his interrogation in Guantanamo, and that the Canadian government's representatives should not be torturing or questionably interrogating Canadian citizens.
Okay, fair enough.
I know Owen's got some opinions on this too.
I had to chime in. That's a very good point you made there, Kate, because people seem to be forgetting, or people seem unwilling to do the research. This didn't begin with Trudeau. I'm not a Trudeau apologist in any way, shape, or form, but he's getting a lot of flack on this. This started with the Harper administration. There's enough to go around. My thought is Trudeau did one thing, though, through this whole process, which was stupid. And maybe it's playing politics, but it's something the Liberals should have done. Otherwise, they wouldn't be dealing with all this brushback from the public and from the opposition. They should have, in my opinion, fought this. The Supreme Court of Canada went forward with this. They approved all of this. If Trudeau had been smart, he would have said, we're going to fight this. We're going to take this to court. It would have cost the taxpayers a little bit of money, but it would have played a lot better in the prairies. Trudeau just dropped the ball on this from a political standpoint, and again, from an ethical standpoint as well. There's enough blame to go around for everybody, but if you're a politician, you got to be a little bit smarter than that.
So what year did Khadr go into Guantanamo?
He was there 10 years, right?
It was 10 years. The settlement was 2010, wasn't it?
That sounds about right.
Harper didn't get elected until 2006, by the way, so it may have predated that as well. Anyway,
Let's throw Chrétien's in on this as well, you know.
Anyway, on a cheerier note, Natives Camp. It is, as we say every week, it is July, so it must be talking about hockey.
Yep.
Hockey.
Exactly, Ken. It's been called the Summer Prospects Camp, but it's a lot more than that, actually. It's not just about the young up-and-comers. What was great about this year is that the returning players, the veterans, came out. So it's more of a summer development camp for everybody, with the exception of a few players. Nick Schultz, one of them, His family lives in San Diego, so it's hard for him to make the commute up. This camp took place in Brandon on the 10th and 11th. It was an opportunity for the management and the coaches of the team to see the new arrivals and to see how they've developed as players, and to see the returning players, see if they've been doing the proper work during the summer. You know, some of them had to bulk up a little bit, and from what I've heard from Coach Dustin Howden, they did that. Some of them needed to slim down a little bit, and apparently they've done that too. So it's great to see that they're putting all that work in. And what I really found amazing was that the level of optimism in the entire arena just was fascinating to me. Everybody who was watching, the parents, some of the consistent fans that come out and support the team, there was a different type of vibe in that arena at the Sportsplex in Brandon. There's a positive attitude. They feel like this is a team, this is a group of individuals that can really accomplish something, and that's wonderful to see.
That's good to see.
It's been a long road to get to that point, hasn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, quite a few years. And of course, there was a lot of years of losing records. And last year, of course, the team made the playoffs. But I don't think enough can be said about the people involved in the leadership of the team in terms of, our head scout, Byron Billett, and our manager, Miles Cathcart, our coach, Dustin Howden. These guys have worked really, really hard. They're passionate about hockey. They're passionate about getting the very best for the young people on the team, and they deal with a lot of players over the years that don't make the team, and they're always working with these young men to, maybe this league over here would work for you, or maybe this education opportunity over here would work for you, and so they've developed a reputation in the hockey world of caring for far outside of their initial circle, and I think that is standing them in good stead. Anyway, another group of young people, 4-H students.
Yeah.
Exchange deal.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so last week was a pretty big week for 4-H in Neepawa. There was the Interclub 4-H show and sale, which includes the clubs of Neepawa, Erickson, and Rapid City, right? I believe it's the three.
Yes.
And this year they had a little extra help because they had 12 exchange students from Nova Scotia that were there with them. And these students were helping out at the show and sale. They were running the concession and the canteen. And what was really cool is that they also participated in the team grooming competition. So from what I understand, talking to the kids, a number of the kids from Nova Scotia did do some, have some experience with livestock, but a lot of the Neepawa kids actually are not from the beef club. A lot of them are from, there's, Bells, Bows and Builders. They're from
Silver Spurs.
Silver Spurs, yeah. So so this team grooming competition was actually something kind of new for them, and I think they did. They might have done one of the actual classes as well. So that was kind of cool, and it was neat to talk to the kids about what their favorite parts were and what. They all talked about the landscape. All the kids from Nova Scotia, when I asked them, what stood out to you, they all said, it's flat here, and the fields are big, and the roads are straight. And you forget how diverse our country is until you talk to kids who are not from here. Interesting thing too, one of the young men who was here, I asked him what his favorite part was, and it was actually going to one of the dealerships and getting to go for a little test drive on one of the big tractors. And it was interesting talking to one of the parents. She asked, what was his favorite part? I believe that he was staying at her house. And she said, oh, it's funny, you plan all this stuff, and they had trips to, Minnedosa Beach for Canada Day. They went to Hollywood Beach. They went to the Human Rights Museum. They had, they had I think they went to the Assiniboine Zoo, although I don't know if they had done that at that point in the trip. But she said, they planned all this stuff, and it was just kind of a spur of the moment. They were driving by Mazer Groups and thought, Mazer Groups, they were driving past Mazer Group and thought, we'll just pull in and take a look at the stuff. And there was a salesman there who took the student for a ride, and that was the thing that really stuck in his mind.
Well, that would be a thrill. I wonder if he realized he was riding around in a $500,000 car.
Probably did, actually.
Anyway, the COPP program, Citizens on Patrol, they were putting on a push to elevate their numbers and create awareness again, which is an ongoing yearly cyclical thing, that's a cyclical thing. So talk about that. What's happening there?
Yeah, Kate and I were just before we started the broadcast, we were sitting down and talking about this and about the significance of the program. And obviously with recent occurrences,
Yeah.
I think it's more important than ever, don't you, Kate?
I think so too. Yeah, I think that I think that there are a lot of people thinking about and concerned about the community, and so this is a really great time for them to learn about the program and hopefully get involved. And it's a really good time for people involved in the program to be out there on the streets and keeping an eye on things.
The most important thing about that as well is people need to realize every little bit helps. If you feel like, well, I can only contribute an hour or I can only contribute this, it's not enough. You can't have that mindset. It's got to be about all, if you contribute an hour and someone else contributes an hour, it all starts to roll downhill. It all starts to build up.
Cool.
You've been a part of it, Ken, haven't you?
We were at one time.
Yeah.
We did patrolling for a number of years,
Yeah.
my wife and I, and I think one of the things that happens is that we do live in a peaceful town, relatively speaking, and quiet town, and you can go all night long, and all you'll see is maybe a cat cross the road. But that's a successful night,
Yeah, it
though.
is.
Well, you have to get the mindset that if nothing happened, it's a successful night.
Yep.
But there usually are vehicles, moving around, and it may be quite normal and legitimate. And it's important that the COPP group record, well, this vehicle was there, and we're not sure why or whatever. And they've done a lot of good work over the years. And if those who have ill intentions on their heart know that the community is being patrolled, it's certainly a deterrent. So it's a very good thing.
So again, just if you're interested, we have the information in the story, right?
Yeah, the information's in the story, and I know this week's story, so these are actually being submitted and sent to us by our local COPP members, our coordinator, and so this week's was about what exactly the organization is, and next week I know he was planning to talk a little bit about how you join. So I know he was hoping to have some information for us pretty well every week, so but definitely if you want to find out more about it, look at this week's paper, and hopefully next week we'll have some more information about joining, and you can always contact them. Their information will be in the story.
Now, Owen, you covered a story about a sport that we don't hear very much about, and that's the bow hunters, the archery group.
That's right. It was great to be able to be out and about, out in the sunshine on Sunday, and seeing this event. It's the annual outdoor classic, the Yellowhead Bow Hunters Club. Every year they put this event on. It's bow hunters from all over the province that come here and participate. If you're unfamiliar with what an outdoor classic is, it's essentially they set up these giant animals, not real animals, but just these plastic models of animals, and from a distance they shoot at them. So you'd mark the scores. It's almost like bow hunters golf. And it was great to see. I was out there, very, very colorfully dressed to make sure that I'm not a moose.
You didn't get a great shot, right from in front of the archer. Why is that, Owen?
Well, they have this silly rule about not endangering people, which it's a good rule. But they were very accommodating. I had some great chances to talk to some people. Got some great shots that appeared in both the press and in the banner.
Yeah.
It's a great competition. A whole different sort of type of sport that was really fascinating to see up close.
They've got a really neat facility out there too, don't they?
Huge acreage just east of Neepawa, actually. And the work they do, it's all volunteers. They're going to be talking to the town in the fall and into the winter about re-upping their lease, as it were, for that acreage. So hopefully that's a club that's going to continue to be strong and to thrive in the future.
It's great.
And when they're not using it, it's a great green space. There's they don't invite people to go in and trespass in there because they might get some trouble, but it is a good green space, a place for natural flora and fauna to survive right on the edge of our town. So then summer is baseball, and so the Cubs played last night and won. They're having a pretty good year.
Yep. It's Santa Clara Baseball League playoff time. All 8 teams. This year it's all 8 teams that are in there. So the Neepawa Cubs, who finished 3rd in the overall standings, they're taking on the Austin A's. Very good series. by the time you're seeing this, it might be a few days old. The first round might be over. But Neepawa won the first game 8-5. Some really exciting action. If you're in Neepawa or if you're in any of the communities that have a Santa Clara team, I suggest you go out and check it out because it is a good level of ball. It's very exciting to watch.
I went to the game last night, and I haven't been to a game yet this year. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I did go. I know some of the folks on the team and work with them in other committees and stuff around the community. And some of those guys are pretty good ball players, and I knew that. I mean, I've known that from other years, but it was really quite fun to watch. I thought that we could have had a lot bigger crowd there. It's the same as any of other sports teams, you know. I don't know how many were there last night, but it didn't seem like a huge crowd for a playoff game, you know.
Well, the thing is, the playoffs were set, only a day or so ago, so it could be a case of people just didn't know, as things start to roll around, word of mouth in the community. Hopefully, as the playoffs progress, it'll get a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Now, we are nearing the end of our time here, so we're going to skip a couple of topics here to deal with something that's time sensitive, and that is Midsummer's Jam Fest and the Midsummer's Eve, things like that. Kate, you've got some information on that, and we've run some ads on that.
Yeah, we've got quite a few kind of loosely associated events coming up, not this weekend, but the weekend after. We've got, it kind of kicks off Thursday night. They've got a number of local businesses have partnered together for their Midsummer's Eve. They've got some specials on. I believe most of them are open late. So I know this is they do these twice a year. They do a winter and a summer one, and this is what maybe the third year they've been doing them, second or third year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the response been? I'll admit I'm a little unfamiliar with it myself. How's it grown over the last few
I
years?
think it's grown really well. It seems like more businesses are taking part, and they kind of have a little bit of everything. If you want to make an event of it, the restaurants are open for dinner, and you can, and the stores are open late. And in the winter, I know they have sleighs taking people between the stores. I don't think they have that going on in the summer, but you can make kind of an evening event of it, or you can just just a good chance to stop into your local stores and maybe get some good deals, to be reminded of what they have.
Well, on Friday night, you can pick 3 activities. There's a Chase the Ace and Meat Draw at the Elysian.
Yeah.
There's Chase the Ace with the Neepawa Natives at the golf course.
Yeah.
And then at the Farmery Brewery is a fundraiser for St. Dominic's Catholic Church. There's a fish fry that night on the Friday night.
And don't forget Cemetery Sagas.
Cemetery Sagas is on a Friday night.
And we talked about that on last week's show. We talked in a fair amount of
Then
detail.
The actual Jam Fest is on Saturday, and it's a double meaning there because jam, there literally is jam to taste and vote on.
Yeah.
And then they're jamming all afternoon in the outdoor stage area of the Arts Forward building. And then
new for this year.
Yes, the street parade and a big street supper, community potluck supper just north of the Arts Forward on Bork Street there, being put on there. There's going to be, everybody's invited, bring your favorite food, and they're going to have I think they described it as the best potluck ever in the history of Neepawa is what they're hoping for. So.
Well, and I know if you want to get the fun started a little early, is it 5 o'clock? They're leaving from the courthouse to kind of walk down there. They're encouraging people to, if you want to make some signs, if you want to, the VC or Arts Forward will be open beforehand for if any kids want to make some signs to carry on the walk. So it should be quite festive.
Well, just as we close off today's show, thumbs up. We had 2 letters this week, and then we'll encourage people to send us more of those.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say with this is Ken's always saying that we want feedback, and we really do. And this week was a great week for feedback. We had, I believe we had 5 thumbs up or thumbs down in this week's press. I know I have at least 1 more ready to go in next week. We had 2 local letters to the editor and the banner, and I know I have at least 1 more local one to go in next week. So we really do want to know what you're thinking, what you think is important, what you like and what you don't about the community and your ideas. So please keep the letters if you've got something at length to say, and the thumbs if you have something short to say.
The only thing we ask is on either of those, thumbs up, thumbs down, or letters to the editor, we do have to have your name attached to it. That's our policy, been that way for 28 years, and as long as I'm the publisher, it's not going to change. Thank you very much for watching the story behind the stories. I'm Ken Woodell with Kate Jackman Atkinson and Owen Devereaux, thanking you for being with us. And as always, we look forward to seeing you next week, and we look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.